Look, I have been in HR for 25 years, and AI is the most empowering force we've ever seen. Oh, honey, I've been around just as long, and AI is the most destructive force we've ever seen. Come on, think about it. Each wave of innovation creates new jobs we could never have imagined. The internet gave us web developers and app designers, and AI will create whole new industries. Yeah, but for every job that AI creates, it destroys more jobs faster. We're talking mass displacement of the very people that we're supposed to support, which means we go from building careers to managing layoffs. Oh, come on. But think about what happens when AI helps us see not just a person's past credentials, but their future potential. A skills-first approach could enable a brilliant candidate from a community college to have the same shot as someone from the Ivy Leagues. AI doesn't see potential. No. It predicts the future based on the past. So it's literally programmed with our old blind spots. We're conjuring a corporate version of Minority Report. Oh, come on. We've been through tech revolutions before. Email replaced endless phone tag, and job boards opened up candidate pools beyond the local paper. Were they disruptive? Yes, but they freed us from busy work so that we could focus on what matters most, unleashing human potential. AI could put the human back in human resources. Human resources, that's a good one. You know, at the end of the day, you and I got into HR because we love people. Our desks are cluttered with scribbled notes from late-night calls with anxious candidates and reminders to follow up with hiring managers because we care about the person behind every application. But now we're training AI to replace all of that. And maybe even replace us. And when AI takes the human out of human resources, there is no going back. Ladies, may I interrupt? You know, you're each seeing different parts of the same bigger picture. When it comes to AI, the defining polarity is innovation and safety. One of you is holding the mantle of innovation, of utilizing AI to unlock new capabilities. The other is holding the mantle of safety. All too real, given recent AI-driven layoffs at companies in this room. The idea isn't to choose between innovation and safety, but to hold both in dynamic equilibrium. But here's the twist, right? We're not balancing innovation and safety in a vacuum. We are balancing them in a business environment that all too often rewards short-term profit over long-term value. And for us, that becomes an arms race for deploying AI before our competitors, but sometimes without the proper safeguards. This isn't about being pro-AI or anti-AI, but about creating the conditions conducive to safe innovation. When we shifted from horse carriages to cars, we needed seatbelts, and when those cars become driverless, well, we're going to need a whole new infrastructure. Ultimately, AI's most feared disruption is jobs, which means the people in this room may have the most important job: to reimagine human work for an age of artificial intelligence. The people in this room are uniquely equipped because of everything we know and love about people to imagine a world where if the jobs don't need the people don't need those jobs. What would the future of work, of our work, look like if people's livelihoods came not from plugging into the job market, but from contributing their own unique genius? Oh, now that's exciting. All right, okay. You got my attention. We may not know what makes humans unique, but whatever it is, wisdom, soul, something else. Let's use AI to elicit more of it. Let's not just adopt AI, but shape the context in which we adopt it, holding innovation and safety in proper equilibrium. So you are both partially right, as am I. Our views will never be complete. But by integrating our different perspectives, we can see a bigger picture.
Please welcome Stephanie Lepp.
So you might think that your way of seeing the world is right. But the three Ariannas and I are here to propose that perhaps you are all partially right. So instead of choosing one perspective and getting a partial view, how might we integrate different perspectives and gain a bigger view? Well, that is the inspiration behind what you all just watched, a performance of my recent production, Faces of X. Now, Faces of X is a series of short videos that integrate different perspectives on divisive social issues like gender, abortion, and race. You know, keeping it light. The format is simple. Each video first presents the strongest arguments on each side, the thesis and the antithesis, and then attempts to integrate them into a synthesis perspective. Thesis, antithesis, and synthesis are all played by the same person. So you all just watched a live performance of Faces of X. The great Arianna Ortiz just showed you Faces of Artificial Intelligence. But the potential pipeline of the series is infinite, right? Imagine Faces of Immigration. Imagine Faces of Politics in the workplace. Imagine Faces of whatever issue you and your team are wrestling with. And I do take requests, so come talk to me after. But zooming out, what does it actually mean to integrate different perspectives? Well, one thing it doesn't mean is meeting in the middle. Given the complexity of the challenges we face, instead of meeting in the middle, I want to see us move from the horizontal plane to a new dimension, from common ground to higher ground. Let's think not just in terms of changing hearts and minds, but of expanding hearts and minds. So one metaphor that I love is parallax vision. The view from our right eye is slightly different than the view from our left eye. Each eye gives us a view that's true, but partial. So it's by looking through both eyes together that the world goes from flat to 3D, right? Integrating different perspectives quite literally gives us greater depth. So a question that I often get asked is how, right? How do we integrate different perspectives, especially within the context of workplaces where different perspectives are colliding every day? Well, perspective integration is an art and a science, and something that has been explored at length by thinkers from George Hegel to Ken Wilber. But for us here today, I'm going to distill it to 3 questions that I ask myself. All right, first question. Is there an either-or that can be flipped to a both-and? Well, on the issue of DEI, yep, we're going there, the goal is framed as increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion. But each of those values are part of a polarity of seemingly opposing values that actually need each other to exist. Right? Diversity coexists with unity, hence our national motto of e pluribus unum, out of many, one. Right? Equity coexists with meritocracy, because fairness without striving leaves us stagnant, but striving without fairness leaves too many behind. And inclusion coexists with exclusion, because we need healthy boundaries in order to have identity and belonging. So, echoing Arianna, the idea isn't to choose between diversity and unity, right, as an example, but to hold both poles of the polarity in dynamic equilibrium. So from either or to both and. All right, second question. Is there an opportunity to shift from yes or no to under what circumstances, if any? On the issue of politics in the workplace, we can shift from politics in the workplace, yes or no, to under what circumstances should politics be discussed in the workplace? And if we leave out all circumstances and no circumstances and integrate what's left, we will likely end up with guidelines that generally encourage political discussion in contexts that are informal and one-on-one, like over lunch or via text, and generally discourage it in contexts that are large group and formal, like all hands meetings or over Slack. So from yes or no to under what circumstances. And finally, are there perverse incentives that are making the issue harder to resolve? So back to the issue of artificial intelligence, we are up against a fiduciary duty to maximize short-term shareholder value and a hyper-competitive arms race to beat competitors for AI dominance. And if we addressed these upstream incentives, then more of us could trust that AI is being deployed not because it maximizes profit or wins a race, but because it genuinely creates long-term multi-stakeholder value. So are there perverse incentives? Now, this kind of integration does get confused with both sidesism, the idea that all sides are equally relevant or valuable. It also gets confused with relativism, the idea that there's no absolute truth and everything is contextual. But the reality is, it's unlikely that one of us is entirely right? Usually that's a sign of tribalism. It's also unlikely that all of us are equally right? That's both sidesism. What's most likely is that most of us are partially right, and some of us are more right than others, which doesn't make for a great tagline, but that's what's up when we're contending with the complexity of reality. So the next time that your team members are locked in an argument about some hot political issue, assume that they each have some nugget of insight, and your job is to help them find each other's and incorporate it into their own perspective. Challenge them to not just listen to each other and hang out on the horizontal plane, but to enter a new dimension. Thank you.